One of the most common questions I get asked a lot lately is what I actually do for a living. A lot of you know that I work remotely, and especially after I told you guys that I was moving from Cape Town to Bali, a lot of you were interested to know what exactly I do for a living and how I'm able to actually do it remotely and still be able to make a good income. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about what I do for a living as a Scrum Master. A lot of you already know that I switched careers from working in customer service to becoming a Scrum Master now, which allows me to work remotely. So I want to share with you how I became a Scrum Master, how I'm able to work remotely, and how you could possibly also go about doing the same thing. Plus, I have a bonus because at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you some of the salaries that Scrum Masters earn out there, just to give you guys an idea of what this career path could possibly look like. Before we even get into it, I just want to send a shout out to Basetsane from Twitter. That's where I actually was talking to her on Twitter after she watched the original video that I did on how I switched careers from customer service to becoming a Scrum Master, and she took that and went ahead and started building her own career, and she recently was able to actually get a full-time job in the Scrum Master, which makes me so happy. So this is something that I think a lot of people can actually consider doing because it is not hard to do, and there are people like me who are willing to share the information with you and help you along as much as possible. So with that said, let's get into this video. So the first thing I think that's important to know is what is a Scrum Master. And I think describing what a Scrum Master is and what they do can be an entire video on its own. So I'm going to really try and just give you a high level overview. It is easier to understand what a Scrum Master does if you already work in tech, because chances are you have met a Scrum Master within your company if you work for a tech company. So a Scrum Master, in essence, forms part of a Scrum team. And Scrum teams are essentially engineers as well as a product owner, and then you also have your Scrum Master, you have testers, and so on. So that whole team is called a Scrum team, and the entire job of a Scrum Master is to help that team to work as efficiently and as effectively as possible by making sure that they don't have blockers and things like that that slow them with their work, so that they can give you guys apps and websites and all of that stuff even quicker with really good quality. So that is essentially what a Scrum Master does on a day-to-day basis. That is why we exist within the teams that we work in. So just as a high level, that is what a Scrum Master does. We do so much more, and I can go into so much more detail about that, but I don't want to make this video too long because I just want to give you a high level overview, because I also want to tell you the whole story of how I actually became a Scrum Master and give you guys the salaries, right? So that is what a Scrum Master does. And in terms of how I became a Scrum Master, I think my story is pretty similar to a lot of stories that I hear from people who are Scrum Masters that were not developers previously. So sometimes a developer can move and say, actually, I want to become a Scrum Master instead, and then they can move into that role. But sometimes you have people like me who were not developers, or who don't know how to code at all, but are able to become Scrum Masters. So like I said at the beginning, I worked in customer service, and it was a good job, but I really didn't want to do that forever. Plus, I love things and things cost money. So I was really looking for a career that I would love and that would also make me money, enough money for me to do the things that I wanted to do with my life. And the Scrum Master role just fit really well into that whole picture, or that whole idea that I had. And I was lucky enough at the time to work in a tech company where they actually had Scrum Masters. So I could talk to people and get to find out how I can also become a Scrum Master. And that was a really, really big help. But I want to give you a few bullet points in terms of exactly what I did, in terms of like the different things that I did in order to become a Scrum Master. So I think the first thing is I talked to a lot of people. I think I always speak about networking on Twitter because it is so important. It has helped me so much in my career. That's why I emphasize it so much. So that was one of the very first things that I did when I decided that I want to become a Scrum Master. Was I started talking to people who were Scrum Masters at the time. And it's what's really nice about talking to people is that they give you a really good idea of what you need to do in order to become a Scrum Master, and they also give you a really good idea of what they actually do on a day-to-day basis. So I highly recommend networking if you want to become a Scrum Master. A way to network that's really easy, and that makes it really, really easy to get started and to get started like knowing people in the industry, is to join meetups. So there is an app called Meetup that you can download, and on there, once you put like your location in terms of like what city you're in, you can join different meetups in your city. You can also join remote meetups. So that's also really, really, really great. And the trick there is when you get to those meetups, you want to actually engage with whatever the meetup topic is about. And you also want to talk to other people that you meet in that space. So it does take a little bit of like putting yourself out there if you're an introvert, but it really will like pay off like so much over time. So that was like the first thing that I did, was talking to people and networking. And once I felt like I had a good idea of what actually they did and what the path would be to become a Scrum Master, I decided that that is what I wanted to do. So that meant I actually had to actually go and get certified as a Scrum Master, and you can get certified as a Scrum Master for different amounts of money. Obviously, you have to like study, so you need to know what a Scrum Master does, all the principles, all the frameworks, and all of that. And then you write the exam, and you can get certified. So I got a PSM1, which is basically completely done online. And after I was able to have my certification, I now had like this proof essentially to any potential employer to say, hey, look, I know I've never been a Scrum Master, but I have a certificate that says I have the basics down and would know what to do, at least to start off with, right? And that really like gave me like a little bit of a foot in the door, not quite, but a little bit, because I think after I actually started, I got my certification, I was able to start getting interviews. And you want to get interviews, of course, when you're looking for a job. But yeah, like getting my certification was a really, really important step there. I think studying for my certification probably took me, I actually forgot. I think I totally forgot, but I would say maybe a month or so, or even more than that. But yeah, like I got my certification, and once I had that, I was able to get a little bit of a much better chance at actually getting a Scrum Master job. And beyond that, it was really just applying for jobs, guys. I applied for so many jobs. And again, going back to the networking, why is so important is, especially when you don't have like experience, when you have people that know that you're trying to do this thing and that have been able to kind of witness your knowledge like grow over time within your network, those people can actually act as a way of accessing other opportunities. Because for me, I told everyone in my network that I was looking for a job. So everyone knew that Thando wants a job as a Scrum Master. So when there were opportunities that came up, they would reach out to me and I would apply and things like that. Sure, I didn't get all of them, but I did get one. And that's really all you need, right? When you start any career, is that first opportunity to say you actually have experience doing this thing. So yeah, like that's what happened. Through my network, I was able to actually get my first job as a Scrum Master. And in terms of remote work, I think this was one of the things I was like really lucky. Was lucky for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was that the company that I joined from the very beginning was remote. So I just never worked in an office as a Scrum Master. But now it's so much easier to actually get those remote jobs because COVID happened and companies have had to change the way that they approach the work office and all of that. So a lot of Scrum Master jobs are remote because a lot of developers are also remote and a lot of tech companies are remote. So you get what I'm saying? So at this point, I think the chances are if you try and become a Scrum Master and you get your first job, there's a very high chance that that probably will be like a remote job, and you can actually make it like a requirement in your job search if you really want to work remotely, because it's not like there's a small pool of remote jobs. There's a lot of jobs. You can apply on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can join Slack groups where they post jobs. There's Indeed. There's so many platforms where you can actually apply for jobs. And Scrum Masters are pretty much in demand. So it is a pretty good field to be in. So that is how I became a Scrum Master, essentially like high level. Of course, there's a whole lot of other detail that goes into my entire story, but that's the gist of it. I've been a Scrum Master for like 3 years now. I'm not going to complain. I love it. Absolutely love being a Scrum Master. It is fun. I enjoy it. And I also get paid quite decently. So now let's talk about the money. Let's talk about the money. I think first of all, I have to obviously say that when we're talking about salaries and things like that, there is no like one like complete like baseline that applies to like everyone, but there are a bit of like brackets and things like that can give us an idea of how much people in a general field get paid. This is to say that there's people who earn less than what I'm going to share here, and there are people who earn way more than what I'm going to share here. So just keep that in mind. But I would generally say, personally, in my opinion and experience, is Scrum Master jobs tend to pay quite decently. I have like my notes here because I looked these numbers up. So I'm not putting these numbers out of thin air or anything. Firstly, there are a lot of different platforms that you can check for like the average, how much Scrum Masters get paid, and all of that, things like Glassdoor, for example. But I really like using like SAGSA. So SAGSA stands for the Scrum User Group South Africa, and this is basically the organization where you'll find every Scrum Master that exists in South Africa, at least, right? And they do surveys sometimes. The last survey that they did, I think, was in 2020, where they were surveying like Scrum Masters, Agile practitioners, same thing, iteration leads, and all of that, to see how much they get paid on average. So this is the study that I'm going to base all of these income brackets that I'm going to share with you today. Yeah, SAGSA is a great one also, by the way, if you want to network with Scrum Masters, or if you're just starting out and trying to figure out where to start in terms of like educating yourself or what steps to take to actually become a Scrum Master. So here's money. So with no experience, so this means you're just like fresh out, you have never been a Scrum Master, this is your very first job, you can expect to get paid 20,000 rands up to 65,000 rands. I definitely do question the 65,000 rands, but clearly there are people that are actually getting paid that much as of 2020. But yeah, that's like the general range of how much you will get paid for a Scrum Master job as their very first job. I will definitely say that I was not anywhere near 65,000 rands for my very first like Scrum Master job. It was decent, but it wasn't 65k decent. So that is what you can expect with no experience. And then most people, I would say, actually, with no experience, would probably land in the range of 30 to 40,000 rands. And I feel like if you're earning like 40,000 rands with no experience, that's a pretty good gig. But yeah, like between 30 to 40,000, I would say, like from what I've seen. But according to the survey, you can expect to get paid from 20 to 65. And that is amazing. With a year of experience, up to 3 years of experience, you can get paid up to 100,000 rands, and that is wild to me, especially in the context of South Africa, where we have such a high unemployment rate and everything. That is a lot of money, right? And then the last range that I have for you guys is for people with 3 years plus experience, where they can even get paid up to 120,000 rands. So clearly it does pay really, really, really well. You can get paid way more than this. You can get paid less than this. It really depends on if you're certified. It depends on the kind of experience that you have, because you might not be a Scrum Master originally, but the different things that you've learned from the different roles you've had in the past will probably help you in the role. So that would basically help you get paid more, if that makes sense. But yeah, so all of those different factors like come into play, your negotiation skills as well. And I always say this: negotiate your salary. Always, never take the first offer. Literally. But yeah, like that is what Scrum Masters get paid in general. Again, disclaimer: people get paid differently depending on the company they work for, industries, and all of that stuff that I spoke about. But that should give you a good idea of what a Scrum Master can make. Like, I think for me, besides like the money or whatever, I think one of the best perks is just being able to work remotely and travel the world and just like work from anywhere, really, because we live in a world where that is so much more possible. So why not grab the opportunity if you are like me and you love the freedom of being able to wake up and work in a coffee shop or work from your bedroom floor like I am right now. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to comment down below, send me a message, let's chat. If you're not subscribed already, be sure to subscribe so you never miss any of my content every single Wednesday. If you are trying to become a Scrum Master, let me know also down in the comments below. You can give me a yellow heart emoji and then I'll know that you watched until the end. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye.